Now before, when we were talking about perfect squares and square roots, we worked with only just whole numbers. But what happens if you have a fraction? So, for our first example, say we have 2/3 square. So again, when anything is being squared inside a parenthesis, it's just what's inside the parenthesis will multiply itself 2 times. So 2/3 times 2/3. And then whenever you multiply with fraction, it's usually the numerator times the numerator and the denominator times the denominator. So numerator times numerator, meaning 2 times 2, which is 4. And then 3 times 3 is 9. So you can't simplify because there's nothing in common between 4 and 9. Now let's do another fraction. Say we have -6/5. And it's being squared. So what it means that it's going to be -6/5 times -6/5. And again, when you're multiplying with fraction, it's numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. So now keep this in mind. -6 times -6 is a positive 36. And then since I use a negative on the 6, it's going to be just a positive 5 times a positive 5, which is 25. So -6/5 times -6/5 is 36/25. And again, two negatives multiplying will come out as a positive answer. And since there's nothing in common between 36 and 25, I can't simplify that. So 2/3 squared is 4/9. -6/5 squared is the positive 36/25. Now that's the squares of fraction. But what happens if we're doing the square root of a fraction? So let's say if we had such as 49/9, and it's asking you to do the square root of it. First off, if you can simplify 49 and 9, sure, do so. But if you cannot, then there's nothing else we can do. So then we're going to move on to the square root of it. Now, in the event you're doing a square root of a fraction, and if you can't think of any right away, then you can do it by parts. So if we were to do the square root of 49/9, since it's a fraction, you can split it into two square roots. So in the numerator, it would be the square root of 49 over the square root of 9. So again, the only time you can do this is if it's a fraction and it's being square root over the whole fraction. So you see how my square root covers the whole fraction? Then you can do this. Now, say I only focus on the square root of 49. The square root of 49 is, and again, when we do square root, we have two solutions. So positive and -7 over square root of 9. And again, I'm just doing this parts by part. Now, let's focus on the square root of 9. The top will stay the same because we simplified it. The square root of 9 is also positive -3. So we finished finding the square root, and we both have positive and negative on the top and bottom. So positive -7 over positive -3. Now we can't just leave it like that. Since they both have positive and negative, then you can simply write positive -7 over 3. So the square root of 49 over 3 is simply positive negative 7 over 3. Now let's do another fraction. So say we have 25 over 81. And it's asking you to find the square root of it. So again, if you want to work parts by part, you can split this into two square roots. So the square root of 25 over the square root of 81. So on the top is going to be positive and negative 5. And then the square root of 81 is positive negative 9. And again, if you're doing the square root of a fraction, you can check if you can simplify it to make your job easier. If you cannot, then just continue the process of finding the square roots. Now, here we got positive negative 5 over positive negative 9. Since they both have positive negative, then our final answer would be positive negative 5 over 9. So, the square root of 25 over 81 is positive negative 5 over 9. Now, again, since these two fractions were positive inside the square root, then our answer is going to be positive negative fractions. But over here, when you're doing the square of a positive fraction, the answer is a positive fraction. When you're doing the square of a negative fraction, then the answer is also a positive fraction. Keep in mind that these fractions, and it also applies to whole numbers, they're inside the parenthesis, so I'll multiply itself 2 times. So if it's a negative number or a fraction, then there's going to be 2 negative fraction or 2 negative numbers. If it's a positive fraction or a positive number, then there's going to be 2 positive numbers or 2 positive fractions.